Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I guess if anybody's here, we should tell them what happened. Folks, it's my fault. We're late. So I woke up 12 minutes before 5, had to take a quick shower and everything. So better late than never. So.
Exactly. It's going to be fun to watch you today. You're such a mess. I love it.
Oh, when I'm under pressure, I'm like, gosh, I just get so erratic. So.
Flustered and shit. That's so funny. I'm like the complete opposite. Whenever I'm under pressure, business mode turns on. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's do this.
Oh my God. Yeah. But yeah. Right now, I am ready. Everything is ready. Oh God. Okay.
Warren's up in the comments already complaining. What the fuck is up with this late shit?
Hi, Warren. How are you?
We're like 3 minutes late. Oh.
Yeah. No, I don't like to be late. I mean, my Thanksgiving stream, I was late because I worked the night before and I had lunch and then I took a quick nap. And when I woke up, I was like, oh, it's time for me to do that live stream. And I rushed to get to the live stream. So, yeah.
I don't care about being late. I am totally cool with it.
I like being punctual, and sometimes that's a problem for me.
Yeah. No, it's a normal human thing. Yeah, I mean, the only one that's complaining is Warren, and that's the guy who literally puts 15 minutes of music up before his show even starts. So,
I have actually started in a habit of making sure before I do my live stream on the Willie Bragg show, that I'll put a little bit of filler music. It just seems edgy, it seems cool and all that. So it's like, it seems like what professional people do. So I was like, let me start doing the same thing.
That's right. Get some music in. So how's your week?
It's mixed. It's better in some ways, in some ways not. So I know one thing. I may have this weekend off, and if I do, it's going to be icing on the cake because I know there's a secret show will be back, I understand, tomorrow.
That's what Warren said. We should be bringing it back tomorrow. We'll probably do something easy where we're just hang out, like no videos or anything like that, because Warren's still trying to settle in. But yeah, we're excited. It's been gone too long. I'm like super stoked about us coming back. So,
and even if I'm working tomorrow, I'll still watch it while I'm at work. So I have my cell phone, and
that's right.
Yeah. So
awesome.
And they're used to me listening to some podcast or another at night. So
yeah. Oh, your work is?
Yeah. So I don't, nobody. Everybody's like, oh, what you listening to, or what did that person said, and it's just that sort of thing. And they just think I'm a weirdo at work anyway. So they're right.
Good. Stay the weirdo at work.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah. I guess we probably should get started with our first story.
Yep, I've got yours already up if you want to start talking about it.
Oh, okay. Let's start talking about the okay, let me get my link ready. Yeah, the Kentucky Republican who withdraws a bill seeking to legalize sex with first cousins report. So let me get it set up. Oh, it's already set up. Okay, good. All right.
I read this the other day and I laughed so hard.
Yeah. And well, I got quite a few things to say after I read this from Sarah K. Burris, raw story, and basically it goes like this. It's like, update: Representative Nick Wilson has withdrawn the bill and said he would refile, explaining the removing cousins have been an inadvertent change that he intended to update by existing a law that adds sexual contact with minor to the statute, which currently only mentions intercourse. He said he had not intended to legalize relationships with cousins. In a Facebook update, he wrote, currently incest only applies in cases of intercourse. So sexual touching and groping by uncles, stepdads, or anyone with a familiar relationship is not included, he said. My bill makes that kind of sexual contact a Class D felony unless the victim is under the age of 12. Then it increases the penalty to a Class C felony. Let's see. He went on to say that when drafting the bill, that there was an inadvertent change, and that which struck first cousins from the list of relationships included in the statutes, and he said he failed to add it back in. Wilson also cheered a good system because he was able to file the bill, catch the mistake, withdraw the bill, and refile within a 24-hour period. Survivor winner said, and Kentucky Republican lawmaker Nick Wilson wants to legalize sexual relations with first cousins as one of the flagship legislative issues in 2024 session, Newsweek reported. Wilson was elected for his first full term in 2023, having previously taken a seat after another Republican retired in 2022. He ran unopposed. The Kentucky General Assembly introduced a bill on Tuesday. He said that the law would strike first cousins from the list of familial relationships defined as unlawful incest in Kentucky. It would also remove incest as a Class D felony for some cases unless it's committed with a person who is less than 12 years of age, in which the case is a Class C. The age of consent in the state is 16. According to the current state law, a person is guilty if they have sexual relations with a person they are knowingly aware is a parent, child, grandparent, grandchild, great grandparent, great grandchild, uncle, aunt, nephew, niece, brother, sister, first cousins, ancestor, or descendant. Wilson won the 37th season of the CBS show Survivor in 2018. Interesting. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm trying to think. And it goes on. Let's see. Newsweek shared TikTok video with fellow Survivor contestant and New York public defender Eliza Orleans reacting to the bill. Oh my God, I got some wild news, she told fans. The news relates to David versus Goliath winner of Survivor Nick Wilson, who then leveraged the fame he obtained from winning Survivor to run for a Kentucky state legislature and got elected. Nick Wilson is not only supporting but has introduced a bill that would reclassify incest in the state of Kentucky to not include your own first cousins. Kentucky, like so many other places, is facing a lot of issues, and this is Nick's top legislative priority. So, any thoughts on this?
Well, I see how this person is trying to use this as leverage against this guy, saying that, this is what he wants. I mean, it does kind of, minus what like this other person is saying against him, it does seem like he probably did try to keep it out, but like he saw the backlash and last minute like changed it really quick. Because I don't know, I mean, he could have probably, but he just looks like he kisses his cousin. So, and plus he's a Survivor person. Like, come on, if that's not the Trumpiest thing that you can fucking do as a poor person is get yourself noticed on camera by being on Survivor and then going and becoming like a Republican representative. It's such a Trumpian thing to do.
Well, you know what I think of, and this is kind of like I just for old time's sake, I will watch the Dukes of Hazzard, when it was on the air as reruns, just because, when I was a dumbass kid like that, like a lot of dumbasses kids in 1979, 1980, 81. So, and I remember from the pilot episode where Bo Duke walked into the boar's nest and he was hugging Daisy. He said, "Daisy, if you weren't my cousin, I'd marry you." And she replied, "Never stopped anyone in our family before." I was like, oh no, they went there.
Ew.
They went there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they went there.
I mean, leave it up to somebody in Kentucky to do something like this. I mean, you said it in this article, the age of legalization or whatever is 16. So, I mean, it's still gross.
Well, here's the thing. I don't want to ever hear from another QAnon Republican on not when I say Democrats, I don't I'm not defending the Democrats like I'm a partisan Democrat, but uh, they're when they say Democrats, they mean anybody who isn't, the Kool-Aid drinking Donald Trump Republican type. And so Democrats are groomers. I don't want to ever hear that from any of those folks again.
Right.
When they
Yep.
say, because far too often they get caught. It's like, what does somebody say? With some of these right wingers, when they make these accusations, it's kind of like it's not an accusation per se; it's more like a confession.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what pisses me off is is it Newsweek that right here at the bottom that's like going around saying all this stuff like he does like he wants his where is it where did you say it was Kentucky, like so many other places, is facing a lot of issues, and this is Nick's top legislative priority. Who is saying that kind of stuff? Is that the Newsweek that's saying that?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Now that is kind of hard to say. Now you brought it up, so yeah. I mean,
Right, because it says, "Oh my God, I got wild news." She told fans. Who's she? Who is this
I
she?
guess it's somebody that was a fellow contestant on Survivor.
Oh, okay. TikTok fellow Survivor contestant, New York public defender. So there's another person who went on Survivor and became a politician, technically, I guess. Public defender is somebody who kind of um, kind of lawyers for people who don't have the money to buy it. But still, like her going around saying all this stuff, like I just really wish she would shut up because, like, her saying that, like, this is Nick's it just, I don't know. To me, it seems like she's trying to, as a person who is enjoying this as a joke, it seems like she's going to ruin it if she keeps opening her mouth by saying this stuff. Like, now you're making it seem like he really didn't do it on purpose and it was an accident, like with her saying all this stuff, like this is his top priority. Like you should have just not said anything and let our imaginations run wild with it, because now you're going over the top with this and she's ruining it.
Well, that's what they do. I mean, and whether you're whatever party you belong to, if they're out to get you, they will take something that's either taken out of context or something that's an innocent mistake, and they will go in and try to hold it against you. And in some cases, some people unfortunately can't get out of it, even though it was honestly a mistake or somebody
Right.
misspoke or something like that.
Right. Yeah, she should have just be quiet and let this picture speak 1,000 words, because he looks like he kisses his cousin. So
Yeah, he does look kind of creepy.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. He looks like he would go to his mom and say, "But I love her." And then she's going to be like, "That's your cousin, but I love her."
I will say the name because when I was in high school, there's no way nobody from my high school and the person was convicted, but one of the teachers in high school got arrested for fondling two kids, and and the last name, I won't mention the first name, but his last name was Rogers. So he was addressed as Mr. Rogers. And we saw Mr. Rogers getting arrested in the fall of 1986 in my high school. And what's funny about that is that we made jokes about the name Mr. Rogers.
Oh, yeah. Because even though Mr. Rogers was like a really good guy, he always had that weird, like, rumors about him.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a
Right.
beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor?
Mine. Would you be mine?
Won't you be mine? Won't you
Gross.
be my neighbor?
Leave it up to the Kentucky, I swear, man. This year just keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder. I love it.
Yeah. All right. So let's go with
Yep.
the next story.
All right, you got it. So this is a story that I've actually been wanting to talk about for a couple of weeks, but it just keeps slipping by me every time. So I'm just gonna let it speak for itself, because we pretty much know, if you've been kind of following the story, you kind of already know. And then we'll talk about it after the video is done. It's really sad. Yeah.
Unsettling situation in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, to be exact. It's been revealed 215 bodies were buried in unmarked graves behind a state jail in Jackson, of course. Attorney Ben Crump is now calling for an investigation. Families of the dead reportedly had no idea until last month. Some of them, those grave sites were only labeled by a number and a metal rod. Joining us to talk about it, activist Arthur Silky Slim Reed, who also works with Ben Crump.
So, Arthur, this started with Dexter Wade's case back in March, right? He was an individual who was hit by a police officer, and his family thought he was simply missing, but he was dead and buried, and no one notified them.
Well, that's a little thing that kind of I wanted to say really quick, that Fox itself kind of just threw over. Like he didn't even mention it right there. I mean, he did, but it was really quick, and it was kind of like just gone through really quick. This guy was reported missing, and his family has been thinking he's been missing this whole time. And apparently, like a couple hours after he had left his home, he had been hit by a police officer, and the police officer, instead of doing what it should be doing, reporting that it got into a car accident, that it hit somebody, that they were dead, he took it to this burial site next to a prison and had, I don't know who the fuck did it, because he couldn't have sat there and dug that hole up himself and did it all himself as a police officer. He had people help him dig up a hole and bury this guy in it and never tell the family where he was, and just let them think that he was missing this whole time.
Oh my God. And being in the South, it'd probably be like, you probably figure, as a black person and nobody's going to care. That sort of thing still exists in the South. So
right. Absolutely, 100%. And what's even crazier too is that I think it's this video or the next or the other video I have. They're saying that it's not. This isn't the only guy. This is going to get crazy. There is a lot of. I mean, it says it right here on the title. 215 bodies have been found buried in this site, with just numbers. And they're saying that some of these people are white as well. So it's not only a black and white, like a color issue, but it's also a class issue as well.
Well, yeah. They usually go hand in hand. If it isn't somebody of color, then they go with the next thing, and that is to go after somebody. Income. The more money or you have, the more power you have.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, the thing about it is that he had identification on him, Isaiah, and the medical examiner gave it to the lead detective, who said he called, didn't get an answer, and they didn't worry about doing anything else. What we're finding, Isaiah, is that Mississippi is Mississippi. It's an ugly Mississippi. And this is sad because now we have 6 other individuals that has been put into the same grave. And if you look at the video from when we first went to that site, buzzards were flying overhead. And we were trying to figure out, why are the buzzards flying overhead? But it's because they're putting them in shallow graves, and the only thing that they're putting them in is a body bag without embalming the bodies. So the stench from the bodies are drawing buzzards there. It's so inhumane for anybody to do anyone like that, Isaiah, is just horrible is what we can say. And that's not even a word that we should use in a situation like this. It's something that we haven't seen.
And what we're seeing here is over 200 people in this, what they consider a pauper's grave behind the county jail there. And what you guys are learning in your investigation is many of these families were never called, were never notified. Many of them still think their family members or thought their family members were simply missing, but they were dead and buried and never got a call from any investigators, any law enforcement officials or authorities in Jackson, Mississippi.
That's right. And one of the things that we faced being Mississippi is that they thought that we were playing the race card. We have white clients as well.
There we go.
There were white people that were buried the same way, Isaiah. And any human being that's buried the way that they're burying these individuals, it says a lot about the people that's doing this criminal act. And the only thing that we're asking, because people always look at us when we're out fighting for civil rights of individuals, the only thing that we're asking in this case We want you to do the right thing and give them a humane burial. And the city is, so it's crazy, Isaiah, to see something like that. It's 2023. It's not 1940. But to see them just dumping bodies in a grave like that, and no name, just a number. So they'll say, well, number 13, that's Arthur Reed. Number 21 is Isaiah Carey. But we don't really know until we get the remains. And then the remains had decomposed so bad, we just have to take them at their word. And when you look at the story, they told us that they would exhume this body at 12 noon, but they ended up taking this young man, Dexter Wade, out of the ground at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. They say, we were not going to allow them to embarrass us with those cameras. If you're not embarrassed by what you're doing, it's shame on you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely incredible. Now, you guys, along with Ben Crump
and another thing too, what's even worse is that they're forcing these families, now that they've found their missing family members that are dead and buried in these graves, they're forcing these families to have to pay for everything themselves, the burials, all of it, to get the bodies, to have the bodies sit there and get embalmed and go through the process. Now, even though it's like they're badly decomposed, like now they have to go and pay for the process of a dead body themselves, these families.
Yeah, that and the pain of finding out what happened to them on top of this. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
it's sickening.
It is. It's honestly, I wish that they could find a way to to punish those that involved with this. But I just remember there was I remember this was on believe it or not, on a conservative talk show. He was outraged in Georgia. There was a woman, a 92-year-old black woman that was accidentally murdered by the police.
Sorry, say that again. I was trying to get the next video set up, and I did not hear anything.
There was a 92-year-old black woman in Atlanta that got that was murdered, accidentally murdered by the police in a drug bust. I think it was something like they got the wrong address and they busted into the apartment. She had a pistol and they started shooting at her and everything, and then they realized that they made a mistake. They had this all shit attitude. And so what the cops were doing, they started taking her gun and, started, like shooting themselves in the leg or in the arm to make it look like that, like they were defending themselves. And, just kind of like, and this guy's a conservative, but he's like a libertarian type. He's not like the worst person in the world, but he was commenting, he's like, this woman's seen a lot in her life. She went through a lot with Jim Crow and everything, and then these cops busting into her place, and she was trying to protect herself, and then her life ended just like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, that's how that's how it goes out there. It's disgusting. Here's another kind of a more quicker video about this whole situation.
In the course of 7 years, over 215 bodies of, you know what? Just read the title. Like, this is some serial killer shit.
The gruesome discovery of 215 bodies buried in unmarked graves behind a jail outside of Jackson, Mississippi, has left a community in disbelief. The families are angry their loved ones were buried in so-called paupers' graves, marked by just a metal rod and a number, and families were never notified of their deaths. The startling revelation came months after the mother...
You saw that grave really quick, right? Like that grave itself said 672. So they're saying that these fucking news reports and medias and stuff are saying they found 250 graves, but that grave site number was 6 something. So I think they're lying about the numbers personally.
Mother of 37-year-old.
So this is Dexter Wade, and in March of 2023, he just went outside for a walk. And an hour later, an off-duty police officer hit him with his car, and he died instantly.
Less than an hour from leaving her home. Police initially said they could not notify next of kin because Wade did not have any ID on him. But an independent autopsy requested by the family found that Wade had been buried with his driver's license in his front pocket.
Do you guys understand the craziness of this situation? A cop killed somebody off duty, and to get away with it, he knew exactly where to bury the fucking body. It's like, oh, whoops, I ran somebody over. Let me go to Home Depot, buy a tarp, and roll his ass up in there, and then bury a shallow grave. Like, the only reason we found the other 214 bodies so far is because they were so lazy digging the grave and they were so shallow that buzzards were flying around and like pecking at the dirt.
An investigation by a CNN affiliate has revealed Jackson, Mississippi's police department did not publicly disclose the names of dozens of homicide victims this year.
I'm not saying the cops are responsible for all 214 deaths, but you do fucking understand that only 100 people in Mississippi died from murder last year, right? And 1 in 5 of them, they're just like, we don't want people to find out about it, so like we'll just bury them behind the jail. Like that's what they're telling you. I'm not scared of the dying part. I'm pretty sure no one would fucking find out, because think about it. Close your eyes and imagine for a second there's a car accident in front of you and somebody's just lying there. You're pretty sure he's deceased. You call 911 and the cops show up, either with or without EMS, right? What do? They call other people in to pick up the body, because every single dead body ends up at the fucking coroner's office so the medical examiner can determine the cause of death. Like, in no situation does a body never end up with the coroner's office, unless in 2 occasions. If they get a call from the police chief or the fucking mayor to be like, oh yeah, the boys in blue got it. Like, we'll let them figure it out. Like it doesn't happen. By the way, it's really reassuring to know that, like, even though they're saying there's only 215 graves there behind the jail, the number says 672.
What we're finding, Isaiah, is that Mississippi is Mississippi. It's an ugly Mississippi. And this is sad, because now we have 6 other individuals that has been put into the same grave.
If you just think Dexter Wade was just like a one-time cover-up and you think all 214 other people are just like homeless John Does, I would just like to tell you that we actually know who they are. Like, the news channel figured out who they are. So there's no fucking way that the cops didn't know who they are, unless they're just fucking incompetent at their jobs. And if you still don't think the cops in Mississippi are sus as fuck, having a place to dump bodies when they don't want people to be found, then let me just remind you, around the same time that they found Dexter Wade's body was also around the same time that 6 cops barged into this man's home and sexually assaulted him, tased his balls, and then shot him in the mouth. Clean through. And they almost got away with it. So, like, no fucking way you're telling me that Mississippi is okay. In the course of
damn, this guy, he does good. I love the things that he comes out with, some hard hitting stuff.
Yeah, I've seen him before. What's his name?
It's Kess. Here, I'll show it to you. Kess.jd on TikTok. Right there. KES.jd.
KES. Okay. All right.
Yep.
I got it. All right. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. I mean, and it took place in Mississippi, but it's the South. So, even in North Carolina, when I think of Jim Crow, North Carolina was one of the more relaxed states in terms of segregation, but and all that. But it was still, they was still practicing it, which is still wrong, but it wasn't as enforced as some of the more states in the deep South. But think about it, we're not talking about anybody dying, but I'll give you a personal experience. When I was at East Carolina, some friends of mine, we're going out, drinking and everything. We were there on 5th Street, and 2 of my friends, one white, one black, they were just sitting there just joking around and everything, and kind of roughhousing out there. And they were, they're snarky kids. And the cop went up to them, and instead of yelling at the white kid, or both of them, he only yelled at the young black guy. And he got kind of sarcastic with the cop, and then the cop arrested him. His younger brother said, "Hey, that's my brother," and he got arrested right there. And we're talking about 90% of the people watching this, students and what have you, locals, were white, watching police brutality taking place right there in front of us.
Mm-hmm. And it happens.
I know it's 3 decades ago. It was 30 years ago, believe it or not, this year. But it seems like yesterday. But 30 years ago, you might as well be saying 60 years ago or 90 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just crazy to see that this stuff is just still happening. I mean, I know it's the South. It's just so weird, like living in a state that's super like progressive and different. You just don't even think that these kind of things happen, and they still do. It's sad.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just a product of living in the South, and you still see it around. It's still it's still there.
Yep.
Just sad. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So looks like you've got a cool video that looks like do dissidents went to a Nikki Haley rally.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Keaton Weiss went to New Hampshire. He went to New Hampshire to go and see to kind of see everything for himself, and he decided, well, let me go and ask her a few questions, and he had a reaction. They reacted to him.
All right. I'm excited to see this reaction. It's kind of cool when people go to these kind of things. All right.
You are a climate criminal. Trump is a climate criminal. You are all aiding and embedding the destruction of our future.
You know what we all need to remember is I'm grateful for protesters like that, because that's what my husband and military men and women sacrifice for us every day to be able to have the power of our voice.
All right, well, good. Here's one more then. Here's one more, as long as you're happy.
No, we're not going to do that. So first
I thought you're
of all,
grateful for protesters, but you're not grateful? You just said you're grateful for protesters.
Okay, let her talk. Get
out of here. Seniors should work till they're 80, right?
Let's go. You're out.
You want to raise the retirement age so seniors can work till they're 80, so the Nazis in Ukraine can get the money, and the mass murdering Nazis in Israel can get the money. I mean, she's
Watch yourself. There you go.
That's what he's doing.
You wouldn't live much longer. We wouldn't allow that to have happened. God bless America, that's for sure.
Good.
Ooh.
Yeah. Keaton decided to go try to ask her a few questions. There was somebody else, just for reference, somebody else was asking some questions. Then it was Keaton's turn, and she was so dismissive of him. But I'm glad he decided to go ahead and ask those questions anyway, and expose her for the horrible candidate she is. Of course, I mean, we know that about her already, but we need to let people know that she's not this sensible, moderate person. She's a warmonger. She's horrible, and everything you could dislike about Donald Trump and everything you could dislike about Hillary Clinton is made up in one candidate, Nikki Haley.
Mm-hmm.
That's my take anyway.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I always say, every time she hears about a new war or another war starting, that girl orgasms. That I have not seen a person who loves wars more than that woman. I could even say, like, every time a fucking rocket gets used, she probably orgasms. I'm pretty fucking sure of it. Because she's got like so much money in Boeing. It's absolute, is it Boeing? I think it is some military company.
Yeah.
So, which is actually kind of funny because I'm going to be talking about Boeing later on with their, 737 Max airplane engine problem. So but this reminded me of another video I saw this week. Nikki Haley got called out for spending millions of dollars on her ads and wasting money when she knows that she's not even going to be able to beat Trump. So this actually reminded me of this one.
Good to see you. Nice to see you, Dean. Oh, I love that. We don't get out and vote on Tuesday. It's important.
Yeah, so can I ask you just like a tiny question?
Yeah.
Do you think it's responsible for politicians to spend like $100 million in Iowa on TV ads, which go to mainly news stations that have lied to us for years, when there's homeless veterans out there that could use that money, when you didn't even come close to beating Trump, and you spent like $100 million in TV ad money?
Do you know my husband's a veteran?
That's fine, but I'm just saying, I'm
and
asking
do you know that
you,
when the media doesn't tell the truth, the whole reason you put commercials on is to tell the truth, because the media doesn't?
My point is, you're not going to beat Trump. And
You know
all
what?
the money you're wasting could go to better causes.
I appreciate
That would make
that.
the Republican Party actually look better.
You know what? Last I saw it was a democracy. So we're going to keep working for a good democracy. We're going to work for freedom. But thank you for your service.
It's so funny how she says that. That's why we put ads on, because when the media lies to us, the ads are there to tell us the truth. Like, have you not seen all those pharmaceutical ads? Are you sure?
She is as bought and paid for.
Right?
She is as bought and paid for and everything. It's funny
For
when
real.
when you said orgasm with regard to prospects of war, believe it or not, I was thinking the same thing myself. She wants it. I mean,
Yep.
that's porn to her.
Yeah.
Those Bush Cheney wars. I mean, and we still live under the Bush Cheney doctrine. By the way, nothing has changed since Bush and Cheney. Yep, Nemarata Ranhadwa, that's her name. Loves warfare. Yeah,
She does. Yep. Not only does she orgasm for every war, but when she comes, it's bullets.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
She doesn't come normal like women. She comes bullets.
she's basically an older Tulsi Gabbard without the sex appeal.
For real. Or yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I'm trying to think of another good warmonger like her, but I keep thinking Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen's a warmonger, but she's just a money corrupter too, so even more. But yeah, it sucks so bad sometimes too, because like you as a woman and seeing all this, woman empowerment, like the Barbie movie coming out, and so like there's like this air of just female empowerment and stuff, and so you think like, well, what if a woman did this job, and what if a woman even had a chance, and then you see women like Nikki Haley out there running for president. We're like, no, never mind, we're just kidding, we want another one.
Well, it comes down to one thing. The problem is, women are human beings, just like men are human beings. And what do human beings do? They commit a lot of mistakes and errors. Sometimes by whatever degree, it can be really bad, what have you. But it comes down to the fact that Nikki Haley is a human being, just like everybody else is. And boy, when she went and fucked up, she fucked up real bad. Human error.
Yep. I'll give it to Nikki Haley. The only thing that I do agree with her on all of her things, there's only one thing I agree with her, is that the two people that are most likely either going to win this presidency are fucking old. We need something different. Like, I think that's what's kind of like flaming her campaign and getting it any higher, is the fact of her talking points of we need to stop having old people in office and we need to have people younger. Like, that's the only thing I agree with her, but I wish it wasn't her. I just wish it wasn't her.
Yeah, I wish the options just really suck this year.
They do. They really do. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that. And that's what sucks too, is like before voting, you thought, like kind of had a choice a little bit, but now it's just like, it's almost like going to work now to vote for president. It's like, you don't want to do it. It's just because it's there and you got to do it and you don't want to.
I mean, at least, even though he failed me, at least in 2016, 2020, I was at least somewhat optimistic with the Bernie Sanders campaign, changing the conversations, which, again, I'm out of the Bernie cult, although it doesn't sound like it, but I've been in the cult longer than anybody else. That's why I talk about it.
Right.
You don't even have that optimism anymore in 2024.
Yep.
Like the title says in our thumbnail, it's not getting any better.
Not getting better. Nope.
Yeah.
Not getting better. Exactly. All right. So since we're on the talk of Nikki Haley, I decided just to do the next one on the Boeing 737 MAX 9 jet that have been having problems. I know recently there was one where like the whole door fell off, but nobody got sucked out. I think a kid got like his shirt was sucked out and his mom was holding on to him to keep him from being sucked out. But like within the last couple of years, people have been sucked out. There's been a couple of planes in overseas that have actually crashed and killed people. So this is kind of the video about it, and I want to watch it and then talk about it a little bit because the whole situation just kind of pisses me off.
U.S. airline regulator has ordered the grounding of more than 170 Boeing 737 MAX 9 passenger aircraft after a window and section of a fuselage blew out in midair during a flight. The Alaska Airlines plane had 177 people on board and was at 16,000 feet when it happened. The pilot made an emergency landing and no one on board was hurt. Here, the Civil Aviation Authority says safety inspections need to be carried out before the planes can enter UK airspace. Graham Satchell has this report.
Pictures taken by a passenger on board Flight 1282 not long after takeoff. Look closely and you can see a hole in the side of the plane. It looks like a window panel has been blown out. This is the pilot talking to air traffic control.
Yes, we are emergency. We are depressurized. We do need to return back to. We have 177 passengers.
More pictures, again taken by passengers, show the full extent of the damage in what was a terrifying experience for those on board.
All of a sudden I heard like a big bang and I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I look up and the oxygen masks were hanging from the ceiling. And then I look to my left and there's this huge chunk, part of the airplane just like missing.
There was a kid in that row who his shirt was sucked off him and out of the plane, and his mother was holding on to him to make sure he didn't go with it.
This is the latest incident involving Boeing's best-selling model launched back in 2015. In October 2018, a 737 MAX operated by Indonesian airline Lion Air crashed shortly after takeoff, killing all 189 on board. 5 months later, in March 2019, an Ethiopian airline 737 MAX was involved in a similar crash, killing all 157 passengers. That incident led to all Boeing 737 MAXs being grounded by the US regulator, the Federal Aviation Authority, for the next 20 months. After this latest incident, Alaska Airlines grounded all 65 of their 737 MAX 9 fleet for inspection, a quarter being given a clean bill of health tonight. Just 20 minutes after takeoff, Flight 1282 made an emergency landing back at Portland International Airport in Oregon. Tonight, the US Federal Aviation Authority has ordered the temporary grounding of 171 Boeing 737 MAX 9s as investigators try to work out exactly what happened. Boeing has said it will cooperate with any investigation. Graham Satchell, BBC News.
It's already been under investigation. They've already been in trouble for doing this. They still haven't done anything about it. So my biggest problem with this whole thing is the fact that Boeing itself has monopolized the production of these things, these planes and stuff, to where these other companies like Alaska Airlines and whoever else, like that's who they go to get to buy the airplanes from, is Boeing. If they were to go to another company, they would, I guess from what people are saying, they would have to be at the bottom of the list, and then that's not good because demand is still high for more planes and they don't want to have to sit at the bottom of the list, so they stay sticking with Boeing, which technically makes Boeing the monopoly of plane building, and that shouldn't be a thing at all. I'm sorry, but if you continuously for all these years still don't fix your plane, I don't understand why you still should be in business. They've been silently trying to cut back regulations, putting bills in lobbying to cut back on regulations. This whole thing was over bolts on the door. When these airplanes are being made, they're done in, like, kind of imagine it like a production line, like a factory line, but each individual production area doesn't know what the other one is doing. So because of the super secrecy of a lot of these things. So when a person that's getting and then you got to think, that person can only work 8 hours a day. So the person at nighttime needs to know the instructions as well. And so the instructions were never given right. They were just told that these doors were open and never told about the bolts never being put on correctly, that it was just the door, something about the door being open instead of the bolts. And so that's what these problems are. It's because Boeing keeps trying to cut back on regulations, and they are still hurting people, obviously, and putting people's lives in danger. I just don't understand why we're allowing this company to continue doing this without anything.
Well, when I think of it, you said it best, a monopoly. And a monopoly, basically, they don't have to be accountable to anybody. And we're seeing creeping monopolies coming back around the country with some of these corporations and everything. And, basically, to go and to try to bust it up is one thing, but I think of Boeing. I think maybe what they need to do is nationalize Boeing, just nationalize it, and because obviously if they're too damn sorry to do what it takes to guarantee safety, should they really even be in business?
Right. I personally, I think that nationalizing even transportation in airplanes should be a public thing, because I mean, transportation on the ground, buses, all that kind of trains, all that stuff is public property. It's owned by the government. Why does airplane rides have to be private to where somebody can make a profit off of it and turn it into capitalism? I don't understand. It's still transportation. It's still moving from one place. It should be. You're right. I think it should be nationalized. Transportation itself.
Yeah, some things it gets better left as a public entity, and this is a case for it right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on the amount of things that should be should be nationalized in a public utility instead of privatizing it. I could tell you 1,000 of them, but that is definitely one. Now that you mention it, that's actually a really good talking point, because if you think about it, everything else is public. I mean, the buses are public. Why are the planes have to be private? Because they can make so much money off of it.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not trying to say that I think everything ought to be nationalized, but some things, there are some institutions, some entities out there that needs to be nationalized. Now, your little mom and pop little store does not need to be nationalized, but something that's too big to fail, like Boeing,
right?
Large portions of
right, like private jets, small
Yeah.
planes, little Cessnas or whatever, those little tiny things, helicopters, whatever, those can be privatized. Why does something that's so big to where it takes 115 minimal human beings from one place to another have to be privatized?
Yeah, exactly, and it's a job protector. If an airline is to go under, maybe it needs to be bought out and to protect to protect people's jobs too.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
But some people call that socialism.
Welcome to America.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right. So you've got a good one. It shows Kyle Kalinske on the Vanguard.
Yeah. Kyle Kalinske. Basically, Bosch. And I'm telling you, Bosch has been irritating the fuck out of me lately. And I was already irritated with Bosch, but yeah, he basically accused Hassan Piker and Kyle Kalinske. No matter what we may think of Hassan Piker and Kyle Kalinske today, no, he's not. They're not anti-Semitic, but Bosch wants to sit there and kind of do this sort of thing and
call them Hamas supporters because Hassan brought that one Yemeni pirate kid onto his show. I haven't watched his videos, but I've been seeing or hearing that Bosch is like going around just rampaging about Hassan is a Hamas supporter.
Yes, it is ridiculous. Yeah, and you don't have to like Hamas, but when you see, obviously what Israel's doing is, and I don't, it's just kind of like, why is Vosh sounding like a Zionist? He tells you he's not one, but damn, I mean, this is what Ben Shapiro would do. He's doing what Ben Shapiro would do. Call somebody,
Well, I don't know. I don't watch Vosh anymore because he's too much of a shit lib for me, but this should be pretty interesting to see, I guess. All right. Even though I'm not really too fond of the Vanguard boys, but
neither am I.
Stupid. We're not children. Let's stop playing this game. He understands.
Wait. Okay.
I'm going to say this as straightforward and as simply as possible. And this will be controversial, but it's true, which is why I'm going to say it. The Houthis are correct. The Houthis are right.
That's what he was saying.
Back and I responded to his video. He basically said that your commentary, in addition to other streamers like Hassan, for example, they basically said it amounted to like America bad kind of logic where, your whole commentary just boils down to anything that's against America and our foreign policy is therefore good. And Vosh even went so far as to imply that this was an anti-Semitic position.
I have to give it to these Vanguard boys really quick. They are absolutely capitalizing on interpersonal drama right now, which is something that they've been doing for like over a year. And I'll give it to them. They're really capitalizing on it.
We're not doing this on Israel's behalf. That's a borderline anti-Semitic talking point. Like that's just fully like the Jews have like deceived the U.S. into like that's just not. They're threatening international maritime trade. Also, Operation Prosperity Guardian isn't just an American effort. It's literally an internationally led effort. There's a UN condemnation that happened right before we began firing. Like, it's not.
Right, it's a UN condemnation. Oh my God, did he not just hear his own words? What was the name of the project? Project, like, what was it? Savior Capitalism.
Guardian isn't just an American effort.
Wait.
Or Operation Prosperity Guardian.
Prosperity Guardian. Prosperity, as in making money. So they're using another word for give me all your money. I want it because it's capitalism and I deserve it and I own it. That's what it is. And they're guarding that. So they're gatekeeping all the money. So that's what these Houthi rebels in that sea, right, in the Red Sea, stopped ships from being able to take stuff, just stuff to people in other countries. That's all it did. That's all they fucking did. And we, as Americans in our military industrial complex, started an entire fucking project over this, an operation, like a military operation over fucking capitalism, over stuff being so that way companies can still sell their stuff. This is bullshit. People are dying. Not only have people been dying for like the last over 100 days in Gaza, but how many people have been starving and dying in Yemen over the last 10, 15 fucking years too? And we're going to start an operation over these Houthi rebels in the Red Sea because they're stopping their shipping containers? Fuck out of here with that shit. That pissed me off more than anything, and I'm sorry, but I'm so scared to even watch what Vosh has to say because I'm on the side with Kyle and Hassan on this shit because this is how it has to be. Like, this is the most least violent thing that these people who are being oppressed can do. Like, you want them to go back to October 7th and start bombing again so you guys can literally eliminate all those people? Like, they're doing something that should be legal. Like, it just doesn't. I swear to God, we live in like this opposite world.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. I mean, before we continue the video, I mean, Bosch has been bad on Afghanistan. I mean, he was saying that it doesn't cost a lot of money to continue the occupation of Afghanistan. He's opposed to the release of Julian Assange, saying that those of us that support Julian Assange, which is true, we have a hate boner for Hillary Clinton. That part is true, but he says that like it's a bad thing,
right.
And telling people don't work with leftists, work with liberals who sits there and basically, fuck over the left as bad. They punch the left as bad as the right wing would. And his anti-drug shit that he's been talking about lately. He sounds like some old grandpa or something like that. Some old right-wing grandpa hooked on One American News Network or something like that. Old boomer. He's an old boomer wannabe.
Who, Vosh?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He got this little bit more of a fault because he started off as a Destiny fan. Like, he was one of the chatters in Destiny's videos, and so Destiny got tired of him in the chat and was like, you want to keep talking all this stuff, make your own fucking YouTube channel. So he did, and now he's got a fucking following, and he let that shit go to his head, so he thinks that he knows everything. He thinks he's this super intelligent guy who's just this heaven sent god from the world to give us all the information because he knows all of it. Vosh is I can't. I mean, he's insufferable. That's a good word.
He sounds intelligent, but you know what?
He uses big words. So
yeah. I mean, Ben Shapiro sounds intelligent, but we all know that's not the case. So I mean,
exactly,
he's Boss Shapiro.
Yeah, I mean, look at me for example. Last year when I first started at KRT, or 2 years ago or whatever, when I first started at KRTD Media, everybody thought that I was some super snobby, stuck up, professional, little snooty, smart talker. I had y'all fooled. You think fucking Vosh ain't doing the same fucking shit? I'm pretty sure he fucking bangs his cousin out in Kentucky.
Well, I heard a lot of things about Bosch, but
from what I heard, he's like, polygamy and all that weird shit. So whatever.
Yeah.
Isn't just an American effort. It's literally an internationally led effort. There's a UN condemnation that happened right before we began firing. Like, it's not just America,
I was just wondering how you respond to that charge and kind of this increasingly prevalent logic that, like, real leftist foreign policy, in the sense that we don't agree that America should be the world police, like somehow that's all of a sudden become America bad.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be fair, I think there are some people who fall down that rabbit hole where it literally does just amount to like America bad. But that's not me. In fact, of course, I've taken heat for my position on Ukraine. When I say something like Russia illegally and offensively invading Ukraine is wrong and shouldn't happen, and it's a war crime, and Putin's a war criminal. You know, when I say something like that, it should be very clear to people that I don't have this this position which is just America bad in all instances. In fact, in that instance, I even supported initially some defensive weapons going to Ukraine so they can defend themselves. So that would be an instance of America through, you know, whatever pathway ended up maybe accidentally being on the correct side of an issue. And I'm willing to say that when that's the case. But look, I mean, I have to be honest. Of course, when you say something which sounds as controversial as the Houthis are correct, like you have to expect some incoming fire over that. So I have no problem with having incoming fire over that. But look, the point is actually very simple. I'm sure that this is being interpreted as like, you know, a defense of the Houthis in general and writ large. And the fact of the matter is, that's not the case. They're a Shia Islamist group. Of course, domestically, they're a menace. In the same way that, like Hamas, for example, yeah, they don't have a good position on gay rights. They want an Islamic caliphate to be a Palestinian state. I would like a Palestinian state that is not an Islamic caliphate, right? So, like, all those things matter, and we can point out those nuanced differences. But the main point, which is inescapably true, is that the Houthis stepped in and said, we see that Israel is carpet bombing innocent people in Gaza. They've killed 12,000 children and 28,000 innocent civilians. Our response to that is going to try to be to block ships that are doing trade with Israel. Now, maybe they haven't done it perfectly, and sometimes they get the wrong ships, and sometimes they use force when they shouldn't, etc. All that's fair. But that core thing of let's stop these ships from getting to Israel to try to put economic pressure on them to stop them from carpet bombing babies, that is the point. That is absolutely the correct thing. And what I go on to say in that video is, this is what the U.S. should be doing if we actually cared about human rights, if we were actually against war crimes. This is what the UN should be doing. Step number 1 for Joe Biden is cut off the money to Israel. Step number 2 is cut off the weapons to Israel. Step number 3 is allow a UN condemnation through of Israel to let them know we are united and we're against you and you have to stop doing this. And then step number 4 is sanction the motherfuckers, blockade them, put economic pressure on them. I don't want to do regime change in Israel and send in SEAL Team 6 to put a bullet in between Netanyahu's eyes. That goes too far. I'm against regime change across the board. But this is an issue where economic pressure, you bet your ass I'm going to support economic pressure. And I don't give a fuck that it happens to be a Shia Islamic group that for whatever accidental reason ended up on the correct side of this. It's true, right? In the same, when I give America credit for something, does anybody say, oh, you're defending the terrorist state that did an illegal and offensive invasion of Iraq and did torture at Guantanamo Bay and did torture at Abu Ghraib and did all these war crimes? How dare you defend the terrorists? Nobody does that because they understand the nuance of it. That sometimes America does fucked up things. Sometimes they do good things. Everybody accepts the nuance on this front. But you're not allowed to be nuanced about the big bad guys like the Houthis or any other group like that. You have to say, across the board in every scenario, I condemn them. I'm against them. Ah! And it's just fucking stupid. We're not children. Let's stop playing this game. He understands exactly what I meant. He understands I'm not anti-Semitic. He gets all of that. But look, bottom line is, I think with a guy like Vosh, he's a YouTube master. So he does, he does like the whole kayfabe thing and like, I'm the one voice of reason on the left, and I will set everybody straight. And that's his whole shtick. And hey, he's welcome to do that shtick. But let's not get it twisted about like if the statement was too far, if the statement was anti-Semitic. That's nonsense. He knows exactly what I meant, and I said what I meant, and I would say it again, and I'm right, and everybody knows it.
That is so important to say, right? That America does fucked up shit all the time, and we all know it, and we all accept it, right? But when some other country amorphously does the correct thing, we'll have to find like an invalidating factor about them and be like, oh, how are you supporting terrorism? It's absolutely ridiculous. One kind of side question in regards to, obviously we're seeing untold horrors in real time when it comes to what's happening in Gaza for the first time. It's pretty unavoidable, I would say. Like, I don't ever like to go and look at pictures of dead babies or like somebody pulling a dead child out from under the rubble or a miraculous almost dead child that has to go get like very painful fucking surgery with no anesthesia. Like, all these horrible things. I don't like seeing that shit. I don't think anybody likes seeing it, but it's everywhere, right? TikToks of it all. Like, it's broadcast to the entire world. And I can only believe that that's reaching people, right? And that the tides are turning. I've seen more and more regular people say, oh, we should call for a ceasefire. Like, we should stop this massive injustice, right? Very few people saying that they believe this is a good thing. However, the most recent general election polling came out with Donald Trump at 44%, Joe Biden at 33%, RFK at 18%, and then Weston Stein, 3% and 2% respectively, right? And that's neither here nor there. That might be like off polling, but what's crazy to me is that outside of the 5% held by Westenstein, all of those people are rabid, deranged supporters of Israel. And clearly, the American people are not putting it at the forefront of their minds when they're thinking electorally. How do we change that in the next 11 months or 10 months before the general election?
Jeez, man. I mean, there is one group of people that really, really fucking cares about this, and it's young people. And actually, no, I'm wrong. There's two groups of people. It's Arab and Muslim American voters, and it's young people. And Biden has fallen off of a fucking cliff with those groups. There was one poll where Biden was losing by 4 points to Trump when it comes to young people. And he was at about 60% support with Muslim Americans and Arab Americans, and that plummeted down to 17% support. There's literally a campaign to be like, never vote for Joe Biden in the Muslim and Arab community that I talked about on my show. So
it's 17% support in Detroit right now with Muslim American.
That's what I'm saying. So look, the pressure is being applied properly, and people are really raising a stink about this, rightfully so. And there's protests outside the White House all the time over this issue. So I think what needs to be done is exactly what's being done to effectively look. Joe Biden will flip his position as soon as he genuinely believes, no, this really is my political ass on the line. Right now, he doesn't actually believe it's his political ass on the line. He thinks, no, come November, this will be in the rearview mirror. People won't even think about it. They'll remember the horrors of Trump and they'll vote for me. And so I'll get through. But if it can get through to him on some level, if these protests and this campaign is persistent enough, then no, motherfucker, you are going to lose if you don't do something and stop this. Then I think it's possible that he does actually change the policy to one extent or another. I don't think he'd actually do anything that's sufficient in terms of something we would like as a final solution for it, but in terms of like slightly nudging him in the right direction. So I think that basically everything's being done that can be done to try to change the trajectory of that. Now, outside of those groups of people, yeah, I mean, the inescapable sad conclusion is that like people don't fucking care about foreign policy. There's an issue where, young people do, Arab Americans and Muslim Americans do for this conflict, but clearly it's really not on the forefront of people's minds. And I don't know how to change that other than to just expose the horrors and say, like, you should care about this, right? But I don't know, American voters, I've always held the position that I think the voters are, in general, pretty reasonable when you get down to the issues, and it's the politicians that are the problem. But yeah, in some ways you want to revise that and say, if I can't get you to give a about this, then like, what the like, what are we up against here? How can I get you to care about anything if you don't care about this?
Looks like they weren't happy about the F word twice there at the end.
Yeah, that monetization situation there. Well, I mean, it's not Kyle Kalinske at least sounds like he's got brown hair again. I mean, on this one, he made sense right here. Mm-hmm. And even Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure, the Vanguard boys. I mean,
that's a really good one. I like that.
Yeah. Tim Black one day said he referred to him as Opie and Opie's best friend.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But no, I mean, they're correct to call out Bosch for his bullshit, and they're correct to call out Biden for his bullshit, because the Democrats are being effectively challenged. Finally, they're getting it. It's like they're getting it, and I hope that they feel the heat over this. Because Republicans, the right-wing Republicans, they don't think twice about letting elected Republicans know you got to play ball. You don't play ball, there's consequences. The left of the Democratic Party, most of the time, they're too scared. They're too beaten down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yep. And I predict Bosch will come out with a video from Prager University. Why I left the left.
I don't know. He's turning just like a super shit lid, like Hillary, Biden, Kamala Harris loving.
Yeah, I when there are people out there I still like The Amazing Atheist, and I was wondering why the hell is he liking Bosch? Same thing with Paul and Scotty from Deep Fat Pride, but they turned against them too recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, because
we all kind of knew Bosch was going out. He was kind of losing his shit a couple of years ago.
First video I saw from Bosch was a video with Nico House, and they would not let each other talk. It was funny. It lasted for 20 minutes, and you could hardly got a word past each other. Yeah.
All right. So I got my story. It's another TikTok video, so I didn't want to like get on there and then have to be stuck with all this. Yep. With all the ads and shit while it was playing while you were talking again.
Oh, no
like
problem.
the last one. Okay.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, I got fucking cat hair all over me. All right. So, what was this one about? Okay, so I know like everybody is, you know, all crazy about the Israeli hostages and how we're wanting them back. From what I heard today, there's going to be not like a ceasefire starting today for the next 30 days, but there's going to be something going on to where they can start releasing hostages and stuff. And so I just wanted a nice quick reminder from the same, I believe it's the same. Yep, it's the same guy, the Kess JD. I swear I watch this guy for my news. Who shows actually an American citizen this week who had traveled to Gaza with his family to kind of learn the culture and kind of humble himself before he goes off to college. Kind of like what the Americans do when they go to Israel, you know, that birthright thing. This man, this boy, his family wanted to do that in Gaza for him. And then all of a sudden the October 7th stuff happened, and then what's happening since, he hasn't even been out in Gaza for a year, and he this week was killed by Israeli forces. So, and nobody's doing anything about it too, just really quick so we can say that. Like, America's not up in a hoopla. You know, this guy, he's going to use another example, but I remember, what was it, the boy that went to North Korea and took down a sign, like how much of a hoopla we were about getting that boy back. The basketball player lady who was stuck in Russia over a vape pen, how much we even gave away one of our own Russian prisoners to get a basketball player back. I just want you guys to realize the kind of things that America does to get their citizens back. But when it becomes an American citizen who has family located in, you know, Gaza and decided to travel there, we get to see what happens.
They shot an American kid in the head for throwing rocks. Basically this, and the reason why you and I are finding out about it is because the kid was from a wealthy family in New Orleans, and his community covered the story, and it got too big for the mainstream media to try and bury.
Loved ones of a Gretna teenager killed in Palestine gathered to pray for him. 17-year-old Tawfiq Abdul-Jabbar was shot yesterday, reportedly by either an Israeli soldier or civilian.
To wake up to a call like that, I was in disbelief.
And 17-year-old Tawfiq Abdul-Jabbar's loved ones still are, since learning Friday that he had been killed overseas. He was born and raised in Gretna. This past summer, his family moved to the West Bank of Palestine.
His dad wanted to take him there for a year or so to kind of, show him our heritage, our roots, his grandparents' roots, his ancestors' roots.
Can you just take 3 seconds and think about what happened? So another government shot at us. Like, imagine you go buy a plane ticket to Japan and all of a sudden they shoot you because you don't look like me. Like, that's exactly what happened. Like, for all the people my age or older, do you remember this entitled prick? Like, our country exhausted every diplomatic option and back channel to go save a kid that vandalized a Thai store and was about to get caned. Like we literally moved heaven and earth for a kid that was going to get the same punishment as I got for not finishing my food.
Born and raised in the U.S. He's been here for 1 year. He does not know anything. I'm teaching him what's life. I'm teaching him what's the land. What's the cost of the land. And here he is. He's paying for it. For freedom.
He wanted to show his son his grandfather's home in the West Bank, the place where blue and white occupies, where terrorists do not exist. He wanted him to learn the lesson of how much freedom costs because he was about to go off to college. A lesson that cost him his life learning is that it is effing open season on anyone with a drop of melanin in their skin from juice settlers. Like, rule of thumb, if you need sunscreen in the Middle East, then you're probably safe from IDF. But if your skin tone is anywhere near Jesus Christ, then it is shoot first and the government will come up with your alibi later. You don't believe me. Okay, Go down this rabbit hole with me. Just go to YouTube and then type in IDF shoots 17-year-old and then find the one that I'm talking about, because there's multiple of just that age. Or it. Just randomly pick an age. Like, we don't have to go back that far. You can filter it down to just this year if you want to. Like, if you thought blue and white snipers only shoot at Christian moms and daughters, like, nah, a 2-year-old can get the smoke too. One of the bigger stories that got me banned last year was on the maiming directive, and that's quite literally the orders from the military to shoot civilians lower torso so that they serve as like a walking reminder to terrorize the communities of Watermelon. The practice was so common that the soldiers nicknamed it taking knees. And just to give you some scale, in 2018, out of a protest of about 5,000 people, snipers hit 1,700 civilians, all unarmed. And the reason why it got international attention was because they started hitting kids. And it doesn't matter where you shoot a kindergartner, they're not going to survive a round from a 338. That's the standard issue for the blue and white snipers. The round on the right is the 338 Lapua. And that's a 4-inch steel plate with the hole the size of a baseball, and that's what they're hitting kids with.
Disgusting.
Yes, it is. And the pro-life evangelicals in this country that like to sit there and lecture anybody who supports reproductive rights, call them baby killers and everything, they are the first to champion what Israel's doing in Gaza. I don't want to ever hear it from one of those pro-lifers again about abortion if they're going to go and cheerlead turning the country into turning the region of Gaza into a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's my say on that.
Yep, they sure are, and they're getting away with it, and they're getting away with a lot of things, and now they have killing an American citizen under their belt.
But it's funny, not funny, but think about it. It's related, but not really, but sort of is with the Ukraine situation. They got a Myra arrest, the kill list. What's the U.S. doing to call them out on targeting Americans? I mean, because I guess it goes against the current hopefully it'll be resolved, that issue. But I'm just saying, they're not really doing anything about that either, and you never hear them talk about it.
About what the crimes?
I'm talking about Ukraine. I'm connecting it with the Ukraine and their kill list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, I got your next one up. Do you know who in the chat who Earl of Laurel is? Would you like to do a show, Earl of Laurel? Because it sounds like you really want to be heard on here right now. Just asking.
Yeah, he can come on the show. We never met.
I'm being facetious. He's just talking in here like you guys should engage with the chat. Am I talking to myself? You're showing me TikToks. Why? Do you want to do a show, Earl? Would you like to do a show? Yeah? All right, we'll bring you on. You got it.
Yeah, sure. We don't know each other, like we never met each other, but we actually know some of the same people, believe it or not.
I am your one viewer. You're our one viewer on that channel. Thank you, though.
Yeah. The next story. Let's see what the next story is here on.
Republicans now support safe spaces.
Yes. That's Road Grimes from Politics. He's got a good show. I do like watching his program. He's been a guest on my show before, by the way, and he provides good stuff, and he's got a. I wish his channel will grow. I mean, he needs, it's slowly growing. But he needs more followers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then let's watch what he has to say about this.
Interview that Brianna Joy Gray and Robbie did with Rand Paul. Say whatever you want about Brianna, but she goes hard. This is great.
point were really sincerely held as important by the left. Similarly, we're seeing a lot of folks on the right who have historically really pushed the importance of free speech on college campuses and beyond, supporting a number of actions that have been characterized as quite the opposite, authoritarian even, from the censorship of Rashida Tlaib to the resolution to equate anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism, to the hearings last week in which a number of Harvard students came before the House to talk about their feelings of safety or lack of safety on college campuses. And I wondered if you could opine on what you think is going on with some conservatives who previously espoused the view that that sort of safetyism was antithetical to speech interests, specifically on college campuses, and what's going on right now.
You know, I've been a supporter of the group FIRE that fights these First Amendment cases, no matter what the topic, for allowing students to express their opinion.
Remember the principle versus the individual,
whether it's to the right or to the left. But I will say that it isn't all about the First Amendment. So if I'm the president of Harvard and I can't look you in the eye and say it's despicable that Hamas killed all these civilians in the desert on October 7th, that has nothing to do with the First Amendment. It has nothing to do with
That's not what happened, by the way.
allowing people to have a crappy opinion and not care that Jews were killed. But it's not really a civilized sort of position or somebody I would want to have be president of a university. So there will be questions about things that you can say, in the same way that I wouldn't want a president who is a member of the KKK or something.
See, suddenly principle isn't important anymore. Suddenly he's like, well, on this issue, I don't know, like these people did say, but there is no evidence that anyone called for the genocide of Jewish people. There is literally none, other than some protesters surrounded a kid who was Jewish that was filming them on a campus.
But people have the right to have despicable of opinions. But you really don't want a president of a university to say, well, if someone says that,
So his argument is that it's okay for people on the street to say it, but if you're the president of a university, you can be held to a higher standard, and we're going to defund you or run you out of your job when you say something we disagree with. So again, this is flat out hypocrisy. And God bless Breonna Joy Gray for going hard in the paint and calling him out on this and making him look like a fool, frankly.
Genocide of Jews, it depends on the context. Well, in a court case, it might depend on the context, and it might be something.
That's exactly, by the way, what the Harvard president was saying in that clip we just watched.
That you're allowed to say, but it's not something. Many of these groups get money. Like, for example, the money is collected through everybody's tuition, then you give money back to these groups.
And this is how they censor people. This is a soft censorship, Rand. It's kind of what they're doing to Russell Brand, right? Now he's a sex criminal, so we need to take away the money he makes, exposing how bad corporate media narratives are.
So there are some groups that I wouldn't give money to, and it doesn't mean I don't believe in the First Amendment, but if your group says that killing civilians are...
Now that is fine. If you're someone who donates to Harvard and now you're upset that they're allowing pro-Palestinian protests on the campus or whatever, and they're not, cracking people's heads or shooting them or whatever you want them to do, fine. Stop donating to them. Great. But then when you do that, you lose your influence. So great, please do. Stop giving them money. They'll get it somewhere else.
October 7th and Hamas doing that was, they're all for it. I wouldn't give them any student money. And that doesn't mean that.
This is how dumbed down this debate is. All this lady said was, it depends on the context, whether or not it is a call for genocide, basically. And now he's like, she's supporting Hamas.
I don't believe in the First Amendment. It does believe, though, that I think that I don't want my tuition or my dues going to support that. I do agree that there are some things that people have gone over the top. Does everybody that says I want freedom from the river to the sea mean that they want to kill all the Jews? No, I think that that's a leap, and people have a right to say those things.
So he's good on that. What if the president of Harvard said it?
But I think when you represent a university, there's sort of a little bit of a different standard. And I think the presidents of the 3 Ivy League schools that came forward, they were sort of tone deaf to the idea that the First Amendment is not something that keeps you from condemning bad speech. It'd be
the First Amendment just guarantees you free speech. It doesn't guarantee you freedom from consequences. And so if these people are really saying violently anti-Semitic things, you can document it and use the evidence that you collect to prove your point in a court, and then fine. But these vague claims of anti-Semitism being weaponized against people is not okay. And he supports it in this case because he probably takes money from AIPAC, and so he has to be dicey about it. But at least he did say the from the river to the sea thing is laughable. So he's at least somewhat sensible.
Sort of like in the Brandenburg case. Legally, Brandenburg was right. He was a KKK member and he had the right to a parade permit, and I would have voted that way in a court. But if I would have been head of Ohio State, I wouldn't have invited him to come speak. You know what I mean? So it isn't always just.
So again, they're equating these women with racists as if these women have said anything racist. They did not. And I'm going to try to play this clip again because it's such a good clip.
I think there was, there's all,
listen
of course,
to what this lady says.
A core part of this authoritarian right-wing movement around the world that uses this false claims of caring about Jewish people as a kind of cover for these broader bigoted movements. I mean, the House hearing with the college presidents was also like a textbook example of that, right?
Let's go back a little further.
Right-wing and Islamophobia in their own countries. I mean, we see the way that this conflation of anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism is also like a core part of this authoritarian right-wing movement around the world that uses this false claims of caring about Jewish people as a kind of cover for these broader bigoted movements. I mean, the House hearing with the college presidents was also like a textbook example of that, right?
So on that note, this is an article from a couple years ago about the Republicans freaking out about safe spaces for college students. So let me just read a bit of this. This is from Washington Examiner, and it's from October 27th, 2016. Safe spaces are for children. Liberals triggered by college Republicans sign. An effort by University of Miami College Republicans to protest the use of safe spaces on campus has drawn intense criticism from a number of students who felt incredibly hurt by the message. Aw, those poor little babies. A sign that read "Safe Spaces are for Children" was reportedly posted by the College Republicans on the door of their club room a week ago. I was incredibly hurt by how incredibly dehumanizing it was to anyone who feels or experiences threats, student Jeremy Penn told the Miami Hurricane. Penn is a treasurer of the Spectrum an LGBTQ organization on campus. In a lengthy Facebook post, Penn accused the college Republicans of supporting a movement that wants him to die in a gas chamber like his dead ancestors. So not even, I guess it was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, but you had the Republicans basically laughing at people wanting safe spaces. And now you have these Republicans, the same Republicans, going on TV like, oh, we need to create a safe space for Jewish people because the protests are violence towards them. And it's just incredibly hypocritical and hilarious that they don't see how ridiculous they look. So I'm glad I almost forgot to add that article just to show you the stark contrast between how these people were, 5 or 6 years ago and how they are when an issue that, gets them in their feelings pops up.
Interesting.
Yeah, I said this. I've said this a lot. Cancel culture was always a right-wing invention. And a lot of shit lives and a lot of purple hair, anorexic little 19-year-olds on college campus started engaging in that too. And it's a reaction against the social conservatism of the Reagan years of, the moral majority and all that, and the Christian coalition in the 1990s that practiced this sort of thing. Some of the shit lives got into the game and borrowed one more thing from the right wing. Um, you know, I remember after 9/11, what's his name? The guy from Fox News, he's no longer there. Bill O'Reilly calling for the firing of Ward Churchill at the University of Colorado because he talked about blowback from 9/11. And, just it was, whether we like what he had to say or not, that's one thing. But silent when Dinesh D'Souza basically encouraged conservatives in the United States to reach out to Islamic radical clerics across the pond to unite against the Western left. And that doesn't sound like treason. I don't know what did. Um, and one more thing, Liberty University in 2010, I believe it was, banned the ACLU and the college Democrats from their campus. I mean, cancel culture is right wing through and through.
Absolutely. And it's so funny the victimization, the victim role that a lot of these Zionists are playing in school, or playing while in school and stuff, saying that, that's calling violence. Like, they left a sign that says safe space are for children. That's it. That's all they did. And you're saying that that's going to lead to violence. Like, oh, the victimization that's being played here. Like that woman said, it's being utilized as a tool, to pretty much make them feel like or look like they don't ever do anything wrong.
I remember back in the days of MySpace, there was a group called MySpace Zionists. Oh, it was a horrible, horrible discussion group. I went in there just out of morbid curiosity, and they accused me of everything under the sun, anti-Semitism and all that. I'm like, no. And I said something nice about a political party in Israel called Meretz, and a Kahanas, which is like, they're so far to the right they make Benjamin Netanyahu look like Norman Finkelstein, as you can imagine that. Told me that I needed to be wrapped in barbed wire for saying something nice about Meretz.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Kat, you're driving me absolutely insane. Speaking of cancel culture and them playing victim and all this stuff, there was a protest this week or last week at Columbia University. I think and believe that's in New York, I believe. They were doing a pro-Palestinian protest at the university, and they got skunked. They're calling it a chemical weapon because, I mean, I get it. It is skunk spray and it has been used as like joke stuff, but this stuff is actually used as a chemical weapon against people in the West Bank and in Gaza. It's actually a very well-known chemical that's used in Israel, and it got used on these protesters. And so TikTok did some digging around and found out that at least one of the guys that did the spraying is an IOF soldier. So they want to talk about having safe spaces, and they're victimizing themselves because of violence against them, but this is what they do when there is wrong one. When there is pro-Palestinian protest. This cat is gonna drive me up the fucking wall. Stop. Oh, there it is. Okay. Here we go.
Students in Columbia University were having a protest for Palestine, and while they were protesting, counter protests were happening. And most of those individuals weren't even students of Columbia University. When they approached the students, they were saying, "We're going to dox you," and they were taking videos and laughing. However, during the speeches, all of a sudden, skunk spray was being sprayed everywhere, and many students were affected by this. Right now, they know that 3 individuals were involved, and they were able to name 1 individual. This person right here. And guess what he is? He's IOF. The internet is still working really hard to identify the other 2. However, they found out this guy in the navy blue jacket is IOF and also a general studies student at Columbia University. To be clear, this is very illegal. You're not allowed to spray skunk spray, but it is something that the IOF is very familiar with doing, especially in the West Bank. It'll be interesting to see what Columbia University does because silence is complicity to oppression.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I haven't read up on it. I probably should, and I'll probably let you know like by next week or something to figure out what's happened. I just thought that was interesting how you were talking about they're saying that they deserve safe spaces and because of violence against them. But this is the kind of stuff that they're actually doing to people who don't think the same as them.
Yeah. I mean, I like people who are consistent. And nobody ought to be punished. No, you have a right to criticize a bad idea, depending on who defines a bad idea. But you don't go and like physically punish somebody or destroy their way of making a living for themselves and their family because you don't like their bad ideas. You can call them out on it. You can make fun of them, but you don't go and literally like harm people financially or physically harm them or destroy reputations in ways where they don't deserve to have their reputations destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
completely agree.
Yeah. I like to put that video up about Trump ramps up racism with a new nickname for Nikki Haley. And I know it's a Young Turks video, but it was interesting, and I have something to say about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is traveling around the country downplaying the history of racism. Donald Trump is ramping it up in his attacks on her. So something that you're probably already fully aware of if you're on Twitter or you follow his Truth Social is that Nikki Haley's birth name is not Nikki Haley. It's Nimarata Nikki Randhawa. That is just a name. That's all that is. Sorry, to me. Some people find it to be far more compelling than just a name. In fact, they think that's checkmate. That's a slam dunk. Nikki Haley's done. And so every right-winger on Twitter who found this out, suddenly it was their favorite shiny new toy and they could not stop tweeting about, did you know her name wasn't Nikki? And Donald Trump eventually picked up on that too. And so he transitioned to calling her by her birth name. That started to bore him. And so he moved on to more fun versions of it, including anyone listening to Nikki Nimrata Haley's whacked out speech last night would think that she won the Iowa primary. That is notably not her name. That's just a word you made up. It's not the name, but it's closer to the name.
Not a primary either.
No, not a primary. It was a caucus, interestingly. He won it, but he doesn't know what it was. That name was too close to her actual name.
He's grieving.
So he moved on.
He's grieving from the funeral, John. Please give the guy.
Oh yeah, I know. He's devastated on Melania's behalf. He's overwhelming with compassion. So yesterday he bleated this. Governor Chris Sununu, the now failing governor of New Hampshire, why I'm beating his endorsed candidate, Nimbra, by big numbers. I'm not going to continue. I think we can stop there. Oh, he uses it again later on. It wasn't a weird autocorrect thing. That's not her name. It's not even close to her name, but it is very close to being about as racist as he thinks he can be in this primary, I think. He's focusing on a version of her birth name to say that she's suspicious in some way. She's a foreigner, an outsider. Forget the fact that she's lived her whole life. She's served in elected office. She literally was in his administration. And also, she is not deserving of the minimal respect to actually say her name. I'm not even saying Nikki. If you want to say Nimarata, you could do that. He's not even doing that. She, in the same way that Harris hasn't deserved Tucker Carlson ever learning how to pronounce her name, he has moved on to a mocking version of it because she is not deserving of the same sort of compassion that white people are.
Well, it's not like the Trump family ever changed their name, John. Get the guy a break, will you? Yeah, but none of this is a surprise. I mean, this harkens back to Elizabeth Warren and Pocahontas. Donald Trump is now, I think, the only president to equally offend American Indians and Indian Americans. We should give him credit for that. It's not easy to pull off.
I just wonder what people like her or Vivek Ramaswamy think they're going to accomplish.
by trying to run in this party. The reactions from caucus goers in Iowa who explicitly said they don't trust. It felt reminiscent of birtherism.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think he was born here. He's not. He's explicitly talking about his race or his ethnicity, and it just also the reaction after he dropped out. The Babylon Bee, which is a pretty staunch defender of all things conservative, posted a story saying he could be the head of the White House 7-Eleven.
That's right.
Which is just like explicitly a racist trope.
Yep.
And when you have people, both of them have tried to say like, no, this isn't a racist party. We're not a racist country. We don't have systemic racism here. Look at your own base. Look at the party you're trying to operate within. What are you doing? I'll never understand it.
They know. It's the presidential loser industrial complex. You run for president to get a job. They both know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And like Tim Scott, they've got to spend their entire life playing dumb about the elephant in the room. Racism for this party in this century is the denial of racism. And that's how you get ahead. When has Tim Scott ever confronted racism? And the only time Nikki Haley's ever done it was when she took down heroically the flag of an enemy white supremacist nation from the South Carolina Capitol. But she only did that to change the narrative so we wouldn't talk about AR-15s. We talked about a flag instead.
Yeah, that's a good point. And look, I would say if I'm trying to, like, devil's advocate, they're conservatives. Well, she is at least. Ramaswamy apparently was a liberal like 2 years ago or whatever, but it's way easier to grift right wingers. I think everybody knows that by now. She's a conservative.
Dave Rubin told me that once. Go on, please.
Yeah, apparently, and he's been very successful with it. Maybe they think, look, I hate that it's a racist party. I hate the racist comments that I have to deal with, but maybe by running, I can shift it a little bit. Maybe, I mean, she got 20% of Iowa. She's gonna do better in New Hampshire. Maybe.
You think Nikki Haley did something out of altruism for minorities in her life?
I'm trying to be fairer than they will ever be to us.
I understand that. Listen, I think we can just go by her positions on the issues. And there is a chance that she could be the nominee of the party. I mean, there's a very good chance with 91 criminal indictments that this guy drops out. So in a way, she's really running to be vice president because that's going to be the job either way. Wait for Trump to fall.
Do either of you think though that he would pick her? He seems to be ratcheting up his attacks on her. He doesn't seem to trust her. I think they had a falling out after her tenure and ouster from his administration. After that wrapped up, she's been a little bit more critical of him lately. Do you think that he would pick her to be vice president? Because I don't see it happening.
I find it hard to believe. I think it would probably be wise on his part, so no. But no, I think that it would help to reassure some of the establishment Republicans that, hey, maybe if he dies, a normal, relatively reasonable person gets into office, and it would dissuade a little bit of the attacks against him for his rampant misogyny and racism. I think it would be a better choice than a Green or a Stefanik or a Carrie Lake or something like that. But I don't know that she's the sort of person he wants. But remember, he did pick Mike Pence. He didn't choose like a fire-breathing, radical the first time. So
he went for the most revoltingly false Christian he could find, and he did quite well. And he doesn't need that anymore because now the fake Christians have their Messiah.
That's true.
But it's interesting. All the media were the bad guys to me on the Iowa caucus results. If Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis were one person, and honestly, we're not that far from that, it would have been a 51-49 caucus result, right? I mean, this was not a landslide by any means. 86% of Iowa Republicans stayed home, about 7% for Trump, 7% for the other ones. So 93% of registered Iowa Republicans did not vote for the president of their party, for their incumbent president.
Yeah.
Nikki Haley is a bit of an outlier here, but she's another symbol of the fact that this guy's got problems in his own party. He's literally their president, and he could only get 51% of the vote in a state as white as Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if he's doing it to be racist. I know he has racist tendencies. He's made big racially bigoted remarks, Trump. But I think he's going after Nikki Haley because that's his main competitor. And I would not necessarily link Namrata Ranhawa as a racist attack on her, even though I do think he has bigoted tendencies.
Yeah, I don't think he just does nicknames with everybody. It's just the Trump thing he does. he does that with everyone. Has little nicknames for him. Yeah, whatever. I seriously had to like relook at the fucking video title because I was not paying attention to anything they said whatsoever. I was paying attention to the fact that fucking why it's Professor Snape on TYT. Like I thought Professor Snape died at like Hogwarts by Voldemort, but apparently he's on TYT. So
yeah, but as I said, I think it's just a way that he gets attention. Trump. I mean, we know what he's going to. We know he's going to go and say something out of just over the top or adopt a new nickname for something. I wish he would have referred to Ron DeSantis instead of sanctimonious, referred to him as Ron D. Groomer because I mean that would have been great. I'm trying to get that out there for people on a hashtag Ron D. Groomer. I'm not finished with him. Yeah,
we're probably not going to see the last of that guy. So.
Yeah, and here's the thing: why she's still in the race when Trump is obviously going to be the nominee, and that's how it appears. But I'll say this before, and I'll say it again: that Trump ain't a spring chicken, and he's got 91 indictment charges against him.
Right.
And some people might actually try to Bernie Sanders him, if you will. I'm going to use that term. They might try to do that, although that's going to be difficult to do. It was easy to do it to Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, Sherry agrees with me. He looks like Professor Snape. I don't know who that guy was, but he looked like Snape.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to do your last one? Because I'm done.
Let's see. Let me see here.
The book review.
Yeah, I think maybe we should do that for next week because if we end the show early tonight, that would be fine because I have some things I have to do before I go to work, so we can do that next week.
All right, sounds good. I'm down with that.
Yeah. So
all right, what you got this week?
Well, let's see. Right now, as I was saying, if whether I'm working this weekend or not, it looks like I'm going to get a chance to see The Secret Show again. So I'm looking forward to that. If I'm off tomorrow, I might do a quick live stream. And I'll find that out at work tonight. Do have special news on Monday at 1 p.m. It's been confirmed. Keaton Weiss from Due Dissonance will be a guest on the Willie Bragg Show. So I'll be interviewing Keaton Weiss. He's going to drop on by. We're going to talk about New Hampshire. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. And anything else going on? I can't think of anything right now. How about you?
Just tomorrow night, keep an eye out for the Extra Bullia channel. We're going to probably bring back The Secret Show tomorrow night. And that's about it. It's just
all right. So I hope everyone will forgive us for ending the show a little early and all that. But we should be back next week, and we will be doing our thing again.
Yep. All right. Check y'all later. Stay high. Free Palestine. Peace.
Yep. Yes. And let me say this: free Palestine, free Assange, free healthcare, and free speech.
That's right.